The warehouse is open. It's Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 36, a collector profile. Love doing these. Our guest for this sit down is Grant Friel, formerly of Nashville, Tennessee, now of Lexington, KY. Grant, welcome to the pod. How are you, my friend?
Good. Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it very, very much. You are, and I say this with the utmost respect. You look young, my friend. And for those of you watching, and I say that because I'm like, I got kids. You look like you could be my kid, Grant. How old of a gentleman are you?
The young age of 22.
So there you go. My daughter just turned 22. She is our oldest. So I got one your age, man. So here we go. We interview and chat with and talk about the appreciation of the hobby with collectors of all shapes, sizes, age, etc., etc. You are 22, man. And again, I say that with the utmost respect. Like, I didn't know what the hell I wanted out of this hobby till long after my 22nd birthday. You are a respected Nashville Predators collector. You have targets on different players. You have targets on for the team in which the from which the city in which the you know what I mean, where you used to live. So there's focus, there's maturity, and that doesn't necessarily develop. And by the way, it can develop in 10 years. That's fine. It can develop at any point in time. You're 22. How'd you first get, when did you first get involved in this hobby? And how'd you first get involved with the hobby?
So the game worn stuff, that was a whole down the line thing. It all started. My dad, he used to own a brick and mortar card shop, so he was always in the collecting thing, always into it, opening cards, ripping packs, and then just seeing the little patches on the cards of the game worn jerseys. Like, oh, maybe that's something I want to collect down the road. And then eventually, I get my first jersey to wear to games when we moved to Nashville, and then get my hands on my first authentic. Go, these are different than the ones that they sell in the team store. I'll collect these from now on, and then eventually spirals down into collecting game worn stuff.
What do you remember? And I'm sure it's a lot, but what do you remember about the community and the draw and the fun that you were exposed to slash had in the brick and mortar card shop of your pop?
So he actually closed that when he had when we were brought into his life. So he closed that, and then he moved to all online stuff. So he does it all out
Okay.
of the house now. So I got to see him packing stuff up, bringing stuff in the house, sending it back out, the collecting stuff right from day one. So kind
Sure.
of
But,
instilled
but
that
the,
with me.
so, again, the community changes a little bit, but it's also the same. I have a very dear friend who does a whole bunch of online buy, sell, rip, the whole thing with the card community. And yes, he says he misses the card shop and seeing the regulars and hanging out with people who are, hey, you got the new season, you got the new, and I'm going to use terms that probably are going to date myself, but do you have the new this set or update set or wax update or and everything comes in it like I collected comics growing up, Grant. So I was on a cycle. Well, I took my bicycle to get to the store, but you knew that on the second Tuesday of the month, The Flash and Justice League of America were coming back. And then, or they're coming out, the latest issue. And then the following week, it would be Batman and Superman. The third week, it would be, just for giggles, it would be the Marvel stuff. So you had, with wax and with sporting cards, NHL, MLB, NBA, NFL, of course, and so on and so forth. When dates are going to be released. When to rush the counter so you can be first for your potential inserts or and stuff like that. So even though your dad closed up the shop and went more towards the online, that calendar still became part of your collecting background.
Oh yeah, 100%. Especially with the COVID is when I started really getting into cards with him. It was Alexis Lafreniere's coming out, all his rookie cards. Let's try to go find some boxes to rip open for fun.
Sure. So this was the gateway. You
Hmm.
jump into the game worn hobby. You mentioned, when you got your first game worn. What was that first game worn? And do you still have it in the collection?
I don't have it anymore, but it was a Penguins rookie camp jersey I got for like $200. It was my first of the quote unquote made in Canada Adidas jerseys where I could hold it side by side with the retail ones and be like, wow, these are not the same.
And do you remember details about it? Because they always say you never forget your first sweater. You were able to pick out Penn's training camp, some details. I can tell you what my first was, and I can tell you what it looked like, and I can tell you that there was rust in the strap, and I can tell you there was a repair on the rib cage. I remember it. I don't have it either in my collection any longer, but the attachment that comes from the very first sweater, be it from whatever level of collecting. I
Hmm.
always find that really cool that it's like a first car. Oh yeah, I remember it was this and it was a stick shift and a blah 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 and the stereo. Like the details and our memory in that vein is really something.
Yeah, it was I think I remember the player. It was Jeff Taylor. It was worn in a rookie camp in Buffalo.
Very cool. Did you go back and research it at all to see, how
Um
much burn he got or
no, it was just cool to have. It was just my first one, like $200. I mean, as someone who's this is gonna sound weird, you make you sound old, but still in high school when I bought it.
it's okay. I wish, and talking to you about this stuff's actually quite refreshing. I wish I would have started in high school, man. I wish I could have had the means. I was busy slinging cheesesteaks and hoagies and going to see my friends play high school soccer and football and whatnot. But had I gotten into the hobby then, I probably would have had, I still would have had tons of fun, but Lord knows what I would have come up with along the way. And again, maybe that's because I'm of a different collecting generation, but I wish I would have started earlier because I was always an NHL fan. I was always a fan of, I mentioned the comic books and I mentioned I collected cards. My dad and I would go to shows on Sundays and we would collect Parkhurst and O-Pee-Chee and whatever we could get our hands on. So it was so much fun. As far as game worn and game worn gear, because looking over your shoulder, you got some Stadium Series, you got a head to toe. Matt Duchene. We'll get into the player specific in just a second. But do you collect additional gear or just Duchene gear or just Preds gear or mostly sweaters and Duchene stuff? Stop Telegram.
You nailed it right on the nail there. Mostly sweaters, some Duchesne stuff here and there, and then goal pucks from games I've been to, warm up pucks, all that kind of stuff.
Does the collection go outside of the NHL at all into other sports?
Not yet. I'd
No,
love to get my hands on some Titan stuff eventually.
I was going to say, tell me more. I mean, are you looking for helmets? You looking for game used balls? Because there's a forum and a
Hmm.
community to help you out with that desire, my friend.
Yeah, I haven't looked into that far yet, but eventually I'd like to branch out, spread my wings a little bit. I've got a couple Titans jerseys that I wear to watch games and stuff, but nothing game worn yet. Um, but I'd love to eventually. Yeah.
Before we jump forward, and by the way, you're listening to Tales from the Warehouse, Volume 36. It's another one of our fun, super fun collector profiles with Grant Friel, now of Lexington, Kentucky, formerly of Nashville, Tennessee. The age thing, does it come up in conversation with, hey, you're a young collector? And not in a judgy sense, but hey, you're a young collector. Tell me what you think of the hobby. Does that ever come up when you're talking to collectors?
It didn't really come up much beforehand, but once I got to the expo, people put a face to a name. It was more than that it came more prominent. People were like, "Hey, you're a little young. What are you? How'd you get in here?"
And you told them stop being so judgy. You're not checking IDs at the door, bro. It's an open circus tent. Please join our circus.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, that's the best part of this. All right, so you got Preds. Anybody else aside from the Preds? And now we can talk about the sub collecting. I see 59s, I see 95s. Talk to me about what forms the Friel Museum.
So almost half of it's all Duchesne stuff, and then the other half's Preds. Nothing in between. So you've got my Colorado Avs, Columbus Avs, Stars Av, or my bad, Columbus Duchesne, Stars Duchesne, Senators Duchesne, Preds Duchesne, and Avs Duchesne, and then everything else is Preds.
Why Duchesne? Talk to me.
So I started collecting his stuff with the Stadium series, and the day before, just because I picked him out as a favorite player. But then I think it was 2 summers ago, I have an Instagram page where I tag all the players and all the jerseys I have in case they ever want it back. He actually reached out to me and asked if I would make a trade so he could get his Columbus third cannon jersey back.
Mm-hmm.
So he texted me. I drove back down to Nashville, met me at a CVS parking lot on a random Thursday afternoon the summer after he had been bought out, and we just chatted for like an hour in the parking lot.
Good guy.
Oh, 100%. I've had the chance to meet him a couple times since then.
Those are A, you love the exposure. B, you love to learn that players legit do collect. Tell me a little bit more about the chat. Was it about, what kind of a guy is he? Did he ask about you and what you do for a living? And did he say, "Hey, aren't you a little young to be collected?" Like he didn't give you that stock answer. I hope not anyway.
No, no, he did not. But he's definitely, as advertised, big country guy. Has his big rolled up in his big old F-150. Has
Sure.
the country accent. I
He's
mean,
wait, now Grant, help me here because he's the one that would like perform on stage or walk out. Does he play guitar like? And I'm going to talk out of
so
my chair for a second. Was it either Eric Church or Paisley or some or Blake Shelton? I forget. Like it's like, oh, Matt Duchene just walked out on stage and he's gonna sing like a minute with Luke Combs or something.
I don't remember specifically, but I do remember this year after they came into Nashville and kicked their butts 9-2. He was out at Tootsie's after the game performing across the street
There
from
you
the
go.
arena.
There you go, holding up a beer like I did last time I was in Nashville. I walked out on the roof and I turned towards the tower and towards the Rene statue, and I was like, hippies and cowboys. This is really, really cool. Sip and enjoy. That's fantastic. I'm always, again, I'm always most pleasantly surprised. Not that not that these guys reach out, but that they're always just so regular. When the fact that he showed up in a CVS parking lot, F-150, you know, I think a lot of folks are like, oh, he's going to come, not necessarily with an entourage, but maybe he'll come with his wife or his neighbor. And it's like, you just wait in the car. But no, there's Matt
Just him.
and there's Grant holding a really long CVS receipt because that's what you get when you go to CVS. I just bought myself an unsweetened iced tea, and I'm just going to sit here and wait for Matt Duchene. Was he, and again, you don't have to talk about what was given up or not given up. Was it a pleasant negotiation? He's like, "Hey, what can I give you?" You're like, "How about this?" He's like, "Okay, great, deal."
That's basically what it was. He reached out, asked if he could trade anything for it, and I said, "Well, do you have any other jerseys that you trade for it?" And he said, "Yes, of course." I ended up getting his players set from the Global Series that they wore versus SC Burn.
Sure. Very, very cool addition to your collection. And with somebody who specifies in one player and a team, that's got to be one of the highlights of your collection. And the fact
Oh,
that you got to spend an hour with him.
oh, 100%. That's never going anywhere. That's the crown jewel of the collection, other than the full set that I got right behind me.
Very, very cool. Before we get into the Predators going forward, tell me a little bit about the other Preds in the collection. Multiple 59s as well, or and again, we'll get into sort of what you look for, but give me a little taste of what's on the palette, as it were.
So I've got a bunch of 95s, of course, Duchesne, but I've got a pair of Yossi's. I've got his reverse retro 2.0 set one, and then I've got his
Super.
set three from this year with the 25th anniversary patch.
Very, very neat. It's been a massive off season for the Nashville Predators. What excites you most about the year to come? Does it rhyme with Stamkos or something else?
It's part Stamkos, but I'm really excited to see what they can do on the power play this year. Absolutely loaded. You've got Marshall on the bumper shot. You've got Stammer with the one timer. Yossi quarterbacking it.
As far as collections, I mean, these are all new guys. Brady Shea was added to as well. Are you already in line? Grabbing a Stamkos, grabbing a Marcia So, or have you made plans already?
I'm gonna wait my turn on those. Don't want to spread myself out too thin to try and get one of those first, but eventually I'd love to get a Marcia Soul, just a tough, gritty guy. Gotta have a ton of wear on those sweaters.
Of course. You mentioned Stammer. I mean, aside from him and the power play, talk to me a little bit about the addition of Steven Stamkos to the Nashville Predators.
He's brings a little bit of experience with also the age, but they signed him to a shorter contract. They're going to close in that win now window that they've got right now in the next couple of years. They've still got Forsberg in his prime. They've got Yossi still in his prime, and they're going to try to ride Saros all the way to the end.
He's going to get a lot of minutes. That's for darn
Oh
sure.
yeah.
By the way, you heard Grant's excitement in his voice. You should be excited. The offseason intrigue certainly touched down in Nashville with the additions. If you're excited for the coming season and you want to get in line or get online or start the line for the players. The request list is there, sales@mygray.com. Get your emails in. You may be at the front of the line for a particular player or style or recent addition. Obviously, all of the MeiGray teams participate in this. And if you're looking at Flyers and Devs and Blue Jackets and Grant's Preds, get there right now, sales@mygray.com. When you're looking to purchase a game-worn sweater, is there something you look for? Is it more wear and tear? Is it a specific style? Do you want the eggplant? Do you want the mustard cat? Or is it Duchesne, Duchesne, Duchesne all day? All right, I'm full. Now I go to a different area.
Mostly that. This summer I actually spent most of my spending on getting all of his teams that he's played for. I actually picked up the Columbus one at the summer sale in person this summer when I was at the expo.
Well done, sir. Summer
But
sale, always a good place to always a good place to make an acquisition, obviously, because you get to take part in that and what goes on in the warehouse following the expo, but you also get it at a pretty good price. So that it's good to take advantage of such a thing. I cut you off. Go ahead, Grant. You were about to say.
But I'd love to get more of the Navy alts. I've got one of them. I've got Ryan Suter. I've got that from Gray this summer. Gave me a great price on it, but of course, got to have one of those. I've got a Mustard Cat one. I think I'm set on that. It's a great style that goes for a lot, but it's not my favorite. But I got to have one.
Are you a wear and tear guy, or I'm still looking to get the Monopoly pieces, and it doesn't matter if it has 0 repairs or 10 repairs? I just want I just want to go for the style to fill a need.
Right now it's trying to go back in time to the times before I was born to try to get some of the inaugural styles, some of the early 2000s. Like I don't have any of the old CCM big block ones or any of the inaugurals yet. Eventually we'll find one for the right price. Of course, I'll grab it. But right now, just a lot of the wear and tear guys like Sissons. I've got his set one from this year, and I think it was worn for 17 games, and it is absolutely shredded on the arms.
Jeremy Lauzon, another one of those guys, right? I want to make sure that
Yes.
I'm, again, not talking out of my chair, but action, some fisticuffs, and a lot of arm work to make Preds and all sorts of NHL collectors happy.
Oh yeah, that was my second choice. I had a chance to look at it before it disappeared to someone's collection, but I think it had almost 40 arm repairs.
I love those sweaters. How about milestones? Do they appeal to you?
There is one out there that I wanted to get, but I missed it. I missed my chance to buy it because I didn't know how the Stars did it this year. But I traveled to DC for Duchesne's 1000th game, and we all had our me and a couple buddies traveled there, and we all had one of each of his teams held up on the glass for warm-ups. And of course, we got on social media for that. But that set 2 jersey from that game, he wore one per period. I missed my chance to pre-order it because I didn't know how the Stars did their pre-order. So I know it's out there, but that is one that's definitely on top of my wish list if I ever see it again.
I understand. And thank you for providing a great segue because we know how MeiGray does it. Sales@mygray.com. Make the requests, reach out, say, I'm looking for this team or this set or this particular player. New teams, lots of familiar faces. Again, if you're a Preds person, how can you not be excited about Stamkos and Marchessault and Shea and the newly re-signed UC Saros? Sales@mygray.com. They will take good care of you. As far as a top 3, sort of Grant's going on an island. He's taken 3 sweaters with him, regardless of whether or not it's in your collection, and it might be the Preds versus SC Bern or something like that from some sort of a global. What players and or styles are right there in the 3 gotta have, may already have?
So for me, it's that one that I got from Duchesne himself, the SC Burn game. Of course, that one's always got to be there. And then the Stadium Series style behind me, those are becoming impossible to find. Nobody's selling them. Nobody wants to move them. But when they first came out, everyone called them ugly. So all of us that wanted them scooped in and got them. And then for the third one, I'd probably just go with a plain old home jersey. You can't beat the gold.
No, you can't beat the gold. I thought maybe you would say like a Bauer inaugural or something like that. Maybe I loved the patch on those, the shoulder with the
tower on the shoulder.
The tower,
yeah.
exactly the same tower that I referenced earlier in the pod. I've always been partial to those, Grant. I don't know. They're simple, they're bold, but I like the artwork on that. And so real quick, not real quick because we've got time. Rewind to the Smashville, to the Stadium Series. when they came out and they played Tampa Bay in that outdoor. Yes,
Yep,
yes.
and
Okay.
Stamkos
And,
scored in that
and
game.
exactly, of course he did. I remember where I was. I was either on a college visit with my middle kid. In fact, I think I was up at Pennsylvania State University, aka Penn State, and we're watching the game in the hotel room. And I'm still in love with those sweaters. I may at some point in time see what's out there, but I also understand that they're drying up. Again, sales at MeiGray.com. I love the guitar pick. I love the stars. I love the I love the oversized numbers. These are things that earlier may not have drawn me because I may have been old man yells at cloud from lawn like keep it traditional. I love the creativity that comes in with a lot of these outdoor games. How do you feel about that? The Smashville look.
Oh, I love it. It's perfectly Nashville. The Hatch Show print font they use for the names and the numbers. Each number is a different size. Every name on the nameplate's a different size. It's great. And the same with the crest on it also uses that type of font.
And for those of you who have ever been in the town, during the postseason, there will be a vehicle parked outside of the arena. I'm like drawing a blank. Not Gaylord. No. Yes.
Bridgestone.
The Bridgestone. Like, why am I thinking Gaylord? I'll edit that out. But right outside of the Bridgestone, there's a vehicle, and people will walk up with sledgehammers, and you're allowed to take a whack at the car like it's a pinata. And it's a rite of postseason passage that is respectfully Nashville. Grant, have you ever taken a whack at the car?
Actually, at the Stadium Series, they had a smash boat because it was versus Tampa
Oh,
Bay. So I've had a chance to go into a postseason game down there, but the boat when I was down there for that weekend, I took a handful of swings out that.
very, very cool. All right. Being a younger collector in the game worn hobby, and this is where we pick the brain, any advice? And I'm sure you have a lot of it because, again, you come with a fresh set of eyes. You come with a different perspective. A lot of people come with, and I'm definitely not saying it's a good thing. Older folks, God love all of us, may be jaded because you may have, oh, I've already done this, or this is the way I want to do it. Because you're of a different generation, a newer generation, you would hopefully have, you know, eyes wide open and just ready to enjoy pretty much everything that it has, as opposed to coming in, I want to say a little angry, but just jaded, probably a little scabbed, a little scarred. And I think that's refreshing, and I think that's a credit to you as a younger collector. What's been your vibe, and what's your advice for other new collectors starting the hobby?
Well, as far as I can tell, at least with the Nashville collecting community, it's a smaller one, close knit, but arms wide open. They'll welcome you in, no matter if you're just here to collect your game issued guys, your fourth line players, or if you're here to grab a Yossi along the way. Arms wide open as long as you don't irk someone the wrong way.
Of course, you mentioned Gray earlier in the podcast, the great Gray Richards, formerly of the MeiGray family. As good of a guy as you will find out there in the collecting world and in the real world. He's part of that community. You have Pastor Rogers. There's a great many good folks out there. When you were going to games on a regular basis, did you guys all get together? Even if it was once every blue moon.
No, actually, I've actually never met Gray in person before, but plan on solving that home opener this year. We've got plans. So since he's
Sure.
back down there from instead of New
But
Jersey,
as,
but
but as far as the sweater community amongst Preds Nation, talk to me a little bit about that and the familial communal content that it provides.
yeah, I've met a couple people at the Stadium Series. They have that fan fest. I ran into a couple people there, but um, not really met a lot of people in person for it. But I have met a couple that we've gone on road trips. Of course, as I mentioned, we
Hmm.
went to Washington for Duchesne's thousands game. A couple buddies from Colorado came out for that with me. I've gone to Colorado to see the Preds play out there.
It's obviously, as you are learning and you continue to experience, it's a wonderful hobby. Final question for you. Any trends in the game worn space for young collectors compared to the older collectors? Again, we all have to be careful, Grant, because when we walk into a store or migrate online or an expo, My eyes still light up like it's the first time that I'm actually ever seeing any sweater, let alone the museum quality stuff that people show up with at these various expos. I'm always like, and this, and this, and this, and this. I am virtually, literally, I'm an 8-year old in a candy store, and that spans all. I mean, there's no age wrong answer when you walk into an expo and you go, look over there, look over there. I'm I will forever be in love with this hobby, sir. Talk to me about trends that you see through the eyes of a collector of a certain age. I won't use the Y word for the rest of the pod, I promise.
um, it seems like there's a lot of the younger guys are starting to get their one big fish, and then that's their one piece of their collection, and they won't get anything else. Like I know I've got a Philly collector who he got all of his Oscar Lindblom stuff, and then it's all focused. And then now, when he moved to the Sharks, he was done collecting Oscar Lindblom and stuff. So it's like everyone's got their one thing that they want to focus on, and I think that's great because you have a wide variety of stuff. Like I've got Duchesne. I know some people, like I said, he has Lindblom. I know someone who collects Jack Johnson stuff of all players, and it's great just to see all the variety of stuff that you see at these places.
Definitely so. And I think that's something to be appreciated too, because as I mentioned, and I can only speak for me and not for anybody else except for the knowledge that I gained from doing these podcasts and talking to other collectors, I'm still, like the U2 says, like the U2 song says, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. I have a focus, but you, it's what I love, and I'm not gonna use the hate word, but it's what I love, and also what confuses me about the hobby in a good way, where I go, maybe I should add that because that looks pretty awesome. There's the level of temptation and admiration where I do collect capital stuff, but I
Hmm.
also collect goalies. But there are goalies that are non-caps that pop up from time to time, and I'm thinking that would look really nice in my modest closet. So there's always the come here, the siren call of the sweater that you haven't purchased or acquired yet, Grant. That's something that I
Hmm.
I, I love and I don't love about the hobby.
Yeah, it's hard to stay in your lane. I know one thing that I'm looking for right now is just because I finally completed all the NHL stuff for Duchesne. It's like maybe I want to add a Brampton Battalion one or maybe a Team Canada. So eventually, yes, but right now I got to stay in my lane with all my Nashville stuff because I know when those pop up, boy, is it going to cost a pretty penny.
There it is. Grant, thank you. What's your Instagram for people who want to check it out? Please, by all means, pub the Soch.
It is on Instagram, it's Music City Sweaters.
Consider
That's
yourself followed. There it is. Grant Friel, thank you so much for making time. Again, if you want to get in line, Nashville, Philly, Devils, Columbus, contact our friends at MeiGray. Sales at MeiGray.com. They'll get you on the request list, just like Grant's going to be, probably in a matter of minutes. Stamkos, Marcia, so maybe they're interesting to you too. Get your emails in, and you could be first in line. Grant, this has been a lot of fun. My name is Scott. We will see you next time. Until next time, the warehouse is closed.